I like it. You nailed it with that one. Reaching, I was going to go all punk rock on everybody. That's how I was reaching my higher ground with some, are you ready to fight?
I know. I was telling Sam about it last night, and I said, Catherine, I listened to her song, and I was like, "Whoa, we're gonna
Oh
have to tone
boy.
her down a bit." And so, but I
Yeah.
thought I said we have Sam here with Truth, Love, and Grit, and I said
Yeah.
we have to have the Sam vibe. And I think that we keep forgetting sometimes that art and music are a form of activism. And I think when we have a song that sort of opens us up to how we have to think and how we have to work and what we're reaching for, there could just never be a better way to open our show. So I'm delighted with the song today.
No, I am too. I love it because you talk about, I think it's like we can't stop believing, to keep on learning, keep on teaching, keep on preaching in that stream. Because, every day when we talk about, like today, talking about defending our democratic ideals, it's really, and that's why I invited Delegate Sam Rasoul on. No one better, I think, to kind of get at that part of us inside that really drives us. And I think when we talk about trying to define who we are, we know who we are as a party and who we are as people. They have to reflect each other, and that part, especially being able to tell the truth and be in that truth and that love that we got to keep. Because man, sometimes, like we talk about, you just get so angry and you're just like, and then also the grit you're going to need to get through what's happening. So, speaking of grit, I'm over here at the beach this week trying to relax a little bit, a lot of sand in the pants, but, and taking the temperature of my family members. It's funny how, when you realize we talk about news and how to communicate with people, it really is so different how people react if as what they know,
Hmm.
and what they don't know. And some people are like, oh, just we have 4 more years. It's going to be fine. We'll get through this. And I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really?
I
What
do
the
think
hell?
that.
Where are you living at?
Yeah. Yeah. I keep on saying, if your hair isn't on fire, you're just not paying attention. And most people's hair is not on fire. Ours is on fire. Mine is about just fall right off my head. But what I would say to folks is this is why it's so important for us to keep talking and telling stories and sharing. And I was talking to myself this morning, and someone told me that it's okay as long as you don't answer. But I was talking to myself this morning about, how am I living in this moment?
Right.
What am I doing? And what is my community doing? And we always say if you're doing the same thing you've always been doing, then you're not thinking about this moment. You have to think about what looks and feels and sounds different. And when I look at my community, they do protests every single week. We've never done that before. And so I think we can look around and say, are we looking at this moment and are we meeting it? And then for myself personally, I have to ask myself every day, what am I doing different than what I've normally done to recognize the moment that we're in? So that's why I love today truth for my own truth and how I'm going to stand in that and what I'm going to do. And then, how you're going to love on people so that they keep on going, which is giving them all the grace that you can, and then reaching that higher ground by just persevering. So that was what
Right.
I was
And
thinking.
when we were talking about just coming off the summit, now it's like what, 4 weeks ago. We still have some following up to do with that. We did talk about them when you brought up, getting this message out in our storytelling. I think it's super important. And especially when we have Monica, who's here, Monica Sarmento from the Virginia Immigrant Rights Coalition Rights, here talking about what's happening. I think the more that we, really project and show on the news and media what's going on and what's happening to human beings when they're being rounded up, detained, put in, really looks like to me, concentration type camps, in our own freaking country, and we see more citizens being rounded up, I think the more that we put it in the news, because you'll be surprised how many people aren't seeing these things. And I don't think they want to. I mean, they do, if you watch it, I guess, Untruth Social or something. Yeah, you see these posts. And then it really made me so crazy when I saw what they did to Barack Obama's image with AI. And I thought, another danger, right? With Trump putting that out and actually how they dehumanized him again, it just really was so freaking racist. I'm thinking to myself, boy, they're going all in and really with all this imagery and but again, back to our own story and getting our communication out is so important. So
Yeah, and the news. which is really getting frightening in terms of what they're doing with Stephen Colbert. That was really
Oh,
interesting.
Colbert. Yeah. Who watches the
Yeah,
Colbert Show here, by the
yeah.
way? Yeah, it's it.
Yeah,
Youngstown, Sam
no,
Rasoul.
yeah. So I think, but not only that, will 60
Yeah.
Minutes will be here. So we have all of these things that are happening where the news is not going to be what we thought. And I do think that through personal ways, people have to get bold and courageous to show these kinds of videos and images and things on your own social network. And whether it's through an email or a text message that you do personally, we have to start showing our friends and family what's happening. I don't know if when you want to show
Yeah,
just
let's go
the
into
things that happened
storytelling.
from the summit, because Lindley Thorne from World Ground Game was there doing this Project Storyteller. I always say it backwards. So, but the point is that a lot of candidates were able to participate in that. And it's really going to be important for people to understand how these impacts are going to happen to them in 2026. So we have a really quick video that was done, and we'd
Yeah,
like to show it, Dennis.
I think it's important. Yeah, I was just looking to see if she was in the room yet. Let's go.
I had a near death experience. And when I came to, my husband was there. He was really freaking out. And he said, "What can I do for you? What should I do? Should I call the ambulance?" And because I know there's copays for everything, I say, "Don't call the ambulance." We go to the emergency clinic, and the nurse says to Jim, "She's close to death." I did have coverage, and I'm alive to tell this story. My story is not unique. This happens to people. This happens to a lot of small business owners. Even if you are in a position where you think you're comfortable in America, you don't know when that comfort might go away.
World Ground Game is responsible for the content of this advertising.
No, that's great. And they produced a lot of these stories at the summit. And I know that she's been traveling around with the Storyteller Project. So these kind of pieces are going to be really important.
Yeah, and it'll be important for us to all spread them out around. And I'm sorry Lindley isn't here because there is a new platform that they're going to be using from Tom Bonnier, and candidates will be able to use this, and it will cost them so much less than what it's cost before to get their messages out. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the Target Smart, what I love about this is what we talked about. People are doing what, we keep waiting for people to do. Hey, do this, do that, and we're doing it. So I think that's really exciting. So yes, that will be continuing. I want to say also, I see Forrest Miller in the room, and I see a lot of candidates in the room. We're really excited because we will be talking about continuing on the Virginia theme of power packs and different ways and resources we're going to help candidates. So if you're a candidate, just expect that we're going to be continue supporting and providing resources. I know we did stuff with Rachel Bittercoffer has agreed to do some work with candidates, and we're really excited about that thread. So speaking of Virginia, I'm excited that the Senator Schuyler VanValkenburg is going to be here today, because what I like about fighting back is when I see people, our Democrats, fighting for their democratic ideals, and they have decided to file it's unprecedented lawsuit. 9 senators have filed a lawsuit against the Youngkin administration for these appointments that they made. He's allowed to make these appointments. We're not going to get into the particulars. The lawsuit is today. I don't know if people are watching this closely, but you should, because what we're seeing going on with the Trump administration and Youngkin is trying to push what is constitutionally what's constitutional, and they're saying, oh, well, we're going to go around the Constitution. And Glenn Youngkin has decided to skip the part of it where the Senate approves these appointments and just goes ahead, just saying basically, oh, we're just going to appoint these ideological appointments and overtake our education system. So, will be interesting, because I think then it kind of highlights to Virginians what's going on. I'm also don't know if you saw the poll that the WIC poll that came out. It's a Republican pollster company, us and polls, but they do show that, of course, the 10-point spread with Abigail up. I don't know if anybody saw that poll. I'll put it in the notes in a bit, but they're showing this great lead, and also the mood of the electorate, which is making Republicans very nervous. But really makes me nervous about reading that poll is we cannot slow down. We cannot listen to any poll. I don't care what a poll says, okay? That
Yeah.
10-point spread, who cares? But I just want to
Yeah.
say to everybody, no sitting down on this one, right?
Well, I just want to say 10 points is not enough.
No.
Like, so if it, 10 points, yay, but that's not enough. And so I don't think, to your point, nothing stops. The most dangerous thing that could happen to us in Virginia, the most dangerous thing that could happen for the country is
Yes.
some Sears. And the only thing more dangerous than that is not winning by a landslide.
Yeah, but it's interesting. We talked, and I know we're waiting. Hopefully, I want the team up there. Oh, Penny Blue's here. Great to see Penny Blue from Red, Wine, and Blue in the room. We are looking for the senator to come into the room, so we'll keep our eyes on the doors.
I'm here.
Yay.
Hey,
I'm here.
Schuyler. Hello. Let's can we please highlight Schuyler's, make him put him on the screen, Laura, and we'll get. You sound like you're at the swimming pool, Senator.
Yeah, I am. Apologize for the background noise. My
No, we
daughter,
love it.
she wanted to go to the pool with friends, and sometimes you got to do what your daughter says.
I think that you're definitely in the spot you need to be in. I just love that sound. So you probably heard us set this segment up. We are really interested. We're grateful for your service in the Senate. Talking about what we see the Youngkin administration, what back in 21 with the CRT push, now it's the new DEI, and these kind of press releases that even call DEI illegal, kind of discrimination, and then going after our education system, especially now the higher education. Can you talk more about that and get into what you can get into with what's going on today?
Yeah. So I think one of the one constant in all 4 years of this administration has been attacks on our education system. And as you noted, it started on day one, right, with his executive orders. It went into the Board of Education with attacks on the history standards, teacher tip lines, and the higher ed drumbeat has only gotten louder and louder as his term comes to an end. And I think Democrats have fought the whole way. I think we've fought successfully the whole way. We've got them to ditch the teacher tip line. We stopped the attacks on divisive concepts. We've been able to nix some of his most radical picks to the Board of Education. And so I think, broadly speaking, we've ended up in an okay place, particularly in K-12. Higher ed, though, right? This is scary times. I think we noted yesterday at our press conference that the Senate and House Democrats did collaboratively. We noted that you can look at a ton of different metrics for why Virginia's education system is one of the best in the country, but really one top line and most recent example is that the constant reason why we're one of the top states for business is we're number one in the country according to CNBC for education, and that's K-12 through higher education. And it's just kind of baffling to us why they're trying to essentially dismantle a higher education system that's responsible for economic prosperity, social mobility. They're currently attacking George Mason, which is Virginia's top school for social mobility, right? This is literally the university that's doing the work to lift people up. And so, as he's continued to put on the pressure, we've continued to fight back. I think a lot of you probably saw that we rejected 8 appointments a couple of weeks ago. All appointments come to the Senate first, which is why the Senate is kind of the tip of the spear on this. But we rejected 8 appointments from the 3 schools he's attacking: Virginia, VMI, George Mason, and UVA. The administration is saying that those rejections aren't final because it's in a committee. And that we'd have to go through a full session. And it's kind of a pretty ludicrous argument if you actually dig into it and think it through. And I'd be glad to go into the details if you want, but otherwise I won't. But the idea that a committee rejecting an appointment is not a final word is kind of silly. It's kind of like self-evidently silly. And so the 8 of us that are on P&E, along with Louise Lucas as the president pro tem, sued the 3 boards of visitors, the rectors of the 3 boards of visitors at those schools, to stop them from sitting the members that we rejected. And that is what I think is literally happening right now up in Fairfax County. I think it's a pretty straightforward case. This is not at the end of the day, the legal arguments around this are not partisan. This is just the legislature's prerogative.
Right.
The governor gets to appoint and we get to approve or reject. And so I think this is a pretty slam dunk case. Can't really go into the details and all of that. I am a named party on the case. But we should see pretty soon, probably Monday, what the judge decides. But meanwhile, while we do that, we went in and we rejected 8 appointments, and then he immediately picked 58 more. And since all that's happened, Donald Trump has decided to inject himself into what was already a pretty toxic situation by forcing the resignation of Jim Ryan. And so we have a lot of decisions to make as a Senate caucus, because it comes to us first, about what to do with those 58. I will say that we are going to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. We are going to not allow people through who don't have our university's backs. I think one last thing to mention, maybe before I take some questions, is at the end of the day, these boards of visitors are supposed to be responsible to the university and to the General Assembly, not the governor, not the president. It's to the university itself and to the General Assembly, which is the will of the people, right? The will of the Commonwealth.
Right.
And I think the thing that was really disappointing in the University of Virginia situation, Youngkin picked a board at VMI that fired the VMI president.
Right.
Which was bad enough. The board he picked for UVA, interestingly enough, didn't fire him. Right? They didn't fire him. They had a majority. They didn't fire him. And that's when Trump got involved and forced him out. And I think the real disappointing thing is that when President Trump did that, we didn't see a board of visitors that stood up for Jim Ryan.
Mm-mm.
We didn't see an attorney for the university stand up for Jim Ryan and make a legal argument for Jim Ryan. And the reason we didn't see that is because right now the university's attorney is the attorney general. And the attorney general is right in line with President Trump and Governor Youngkin. And so long term, there's a lot of things we have to do. One is make sure these universities have their own lawyers. Scott Serville has already put that bill in, and the current governor vetoed it. We are hopeful that if that 10-point and growing lead, is true, Abigail Spanberger would sign such a bill. And we also need to modernize and clarify the appointment procedure process. These folks should not be sitting and making decisions before the legislature has had some sort of a say, whether that's in full session or in some other way. And so we've got decisions to make down the road, but in the short term, it's this lawsuit, and it's looking at these 58 appointments, and it's trying to kick up as much a fuss. And this is where I will end. It's contingent on all of us to kick up a fuss to protect President Washington. I think we've seen a lot of people do that. We've seen 4 business groups yesterday put out a statement supporting him. We saw the faculty at George Mason step up to protect him. We had 80 Jewish faculty at George Mason put out a letter saying it's ridiculous that he's anti-Semitic. We have now seen the Senate and House Democratic caucuses stand up to try to protect him. And we have to hope that this pushback is enough to stop the Trump administration.
Vanell, did you have a question? I felt like I want to make sure I go to you first, and then we need to.
Yeah, I do. So the information that you've just given, Schuyler, is really powerful. And I think some of the little nuggets, if people knew and understood them better, it would perhaps build a bigger stink. And so I'm just wondering how you guys are thinking about in the Senate using, whether it's social media, whether it's digital ads, to sort of get the bigger, broader community involved in understanding what's happening so that there can be bigger pushback on this administration.
Yeah, we're trying to amplify it with all the tools we have. So our caucus has, I think, been pretty dedicated to getting out these press conferences, getting out these press releases, making sure it's on social media, making sure it's out and available to people, but also connecting the dots with these other outside groups and trying to work with people who are also doing this. I think this morning I saw Jennifer Boysko retweet another group that was rallying, and I'm not sure, I didn't get a chance to deep read it, but I think it might be alumni of George Mason. And so we're trying to build coalitions. The problem, the tragedy of the UVA situation is that it came so fast, there was no time to organize. There was no time to build a coalition to push back. And we really were purely dependent on the Board of Visitors and the Attorney General trying to push back legally, which of course they didn't do. At least in this case, it's kind of, we've seen it coming for weeks and we've been able to do some pushback. Will that matter? Honestly, I don't think anybody can say for sure, right? At the end of the day, if the Trump administration decides to come in and come down on them and come down on President Washington, I'm not sure there's much, unfortunately, we can do.
Mm.
You know, but what we can do is ensure we can use all the tools in our toolkit,
Right.
all the powers in our power that we have now. And then when we have a new General Assembly and hopefully a governor
Yeah.
who is more aligned with Virginia and less aligned with MAGA, we can get some laws passed, and we can also get a governor who can depoliticize these boards. I think it's really important to note that until Glenn Youngkin, these boards were not ideological.
Exactly.
You know, there was really about, I mean, obviously there's some politics and everything related to education. I'm right, like obviously, but most of the work that they're doing is not ideological. It's governing a university,
Right.
which requires a lot of time and effort and thoughtfulness. And so hopefully we go back to appointments that reflect that, that reflect what the
Yeah.
job really is, because that's how we became the number one state
We were
for
number one.
education.
Now we're number 4 in business, so we can't imagine that we can go down that road with them. But I want to thank you, Schuyler, for coming in. Senator Schuyler involved VanValkenburg. Oh my gosh.
Say it 10 times fast.
10 times fast. Yeah, definitely. No, but it's so much fun to see you as a senator, though, you know, also and on the Senate side. We hope you enjoy that side, but it really is important what you're doing. And I think that's the biggest thing that you guys have made, as Vanel said, a stink and have pushed back. And I hopefully people won't step down. That's the thing, is that what we see, like staying in there as long as you can, I think is very important. So thank you, Schuyler VanValkenburg. Good to see you. Enjoy the pool, enjoy your summer, and we'll be looking forward to hopefully hearing that on this lawsuit that it has gone an important way for education in Virginia. I want to say too, and make sure we want to mute. I can see that, hear those kids up there. I'm going to make those kids up at the pool be a little quiet. I want to welcome everybody in the room, that it is July 25th and you are on the Friday Power Lunch. I want to say that we have the after chat past 1 o'clock today. It's the most favorite part, where we get to kind of turn everything down and you get to talk. Thank you to our patrons in the room. We got some new ones last week. I hope we get some more this week. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to make sure that we get the show started and go right to some of our guests. And I want to welcome, we'll have our show today is going to include Monica Sarmiento. She's the Executive Director of the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights. Sam Rasoul is going to be here too, from the 38th District. He's also on the ballot, Sam is, so that's also great. And we're so excited just to have such a great chance to talk to everybody today. The Chesterfield Power Pack is going to be here. I see them. Deborah Gardner's up there. I think Jonas Eppert, and we also, Lindsay Doherty will not be here. But who's the last one I'm forgetting on the?
You're Jonas.
Leslie.
Oh, Leslie.
That's
Jonas
it. I
Eppert.
said Jonas Eppert. Yeah, Leslie. How can we forget? Leslie ran for Congress, and now she's going to win that delegate seat, which is great. So what I want to do is get started with Monica, if we may, to bring her up to talk about a really important subject. Hello, Monica. Welcome, welcome. And for now, we'll let you take a break so you can get warmed up. Thank you for being with us today. It's so important. You know, we have the Viva la Resistance group through the Virginia Grassroots Coalition that work on all kind of really important policy, important things going on at the federal and state level. And I'm going to say to you that there is so much concern and about what's happening to people in this country, specifically our immigrant communities and neighbors. And I wanted to bring you on to talk about that and just give us an update of what's been going on, what your concerns are, and what we can do.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me on. It's an honor to be here. As I think everybody knows, we've just seen the devastating attacks that have happened on the immigrant community, not only in the Commonwealth, but across the country. If you've kept up with the news, I'm sure you've seen that in the last 2 weeks, both the New York Times as well as Axios has reported that Virginia is the #1 target in the country for ICE operations. We've seen an escalation unlike anything we've ever seen, and definitely nothing I've seen in my career. And the dehumanization that has happened to our community members is absolutely devastating. And, you know, to kind of go into a little bit of kind of what we're dealing with, particularly with the advocacy that our governor has done on localities. At the beginning of 2025, we had 0 localities that had ICE agreements. As I speak with you today, we now have 25 localities, some of them being, you know, regional, of course, the statewide police as well that the governor signed across the Commonwealth, and that has absolutely devastating, not just immigrant families, but mixed status families and all those impacted. You know, when I look at areas in Loudoun County, New Virginia Majority did a fantastic job at analyzing that. They showed data that now Latinx community members in that county are now 8 times more likely to be stopped by police, um,
Wow.
just for driving in that region. So it has escalated racial profiling as well, in addition to this multi-tiered attack we've seen not only from the state but also from the administration. We've seen attacks on nonprofits like we've never seen before. The Subcommittee on Homeland Security in the U.S. House of Representatives sent out letters to 215 nonprofit organizations in the country, many of them here in Virginia, really just going after the fact that they just service immigrant communities. And so from that, we've also seen kind of unprecedented attacks. I think we all saw what happened to the Institute of Peace, the intimidation factors that are now happening with national funders that have really backed away from supporting these organizations. In addition to that, we have critical direct services organizations here in the Commonwealth who have had their federal funding completely gutted, like this year member Church World Services. As a result of that, they actually were forced to lay off 70% of their staff. And we know that all of this is really wrapped up as part of a bigger objective to attack due process against everyone, particularly those who are directly impacted. So we're seeing this mass escalation happen all over the Commonwealth. I will tell you that 3/4 of the immigrant population reside in Northern Virginia, and we've definitely seen an eye from the administration on Northern Virginia, particularly, but there's also pockets in the Tidewater area, Roanoke, as well as Richmond, and spread out everywhere, where we're just seeing the overwhelming fear immigrant communities are facing.
Mm-hmm.
The overwhelming just devastation that this is happening economically. Folks are just too scared to really leave their homes. And, you know, I am so grateful that you have formed this community of folks who are willing to stand up and speak out during this critical time, because we know as bad as things are, they will get worse.
Yes.
With the passage of the big, beautiful bill, we know that it has now essentially will be quadrupling the size of ICE. And what is different now in this administration that we've never seen before is that they have collected multiple federal agencies such as the FBI, DEA, and several other agencies that are now collaborating in ICE operations throughout the country and the Commonwealth. So we're seeing these devastating effects, and a couple of things that, you know, we're asking folks to do is, you know, first and foremost, everyone should know their rights. Everyone, regardless of immigration status, should know their rights. ACLU of Virginia, ACLU National has put out fantastic material on know your rights and what to do. And the reality of the situation is, unfortunately, there's just not enough attorneys to go around, but make sure that you have the name and contact information for an attorney. On our website, virginiaimmigrants.org, we do have a section that says who can help, that list all the nonprofit attorney organizations in our Commonwealth. And unfortunately, we know that there is just a backlog. The legal organizations have told me they are overwhelmed with calls, emails, requests from all over the state. But now is the time to prepare. The Immigrant Legal Resource Center has put together a very, very thorough list of things that folks should be doing, that you can do, that you can help your neighbors do. They have that out in a variety of languages on how to prepare for the worst. What
Yeah.
happens if your loved one gets arrested by ICE? Those are just some of the things that kind of start contemplating. I will tell you, Basir, we are a very small organization, really a staff of 2 for a statewide coalition of 51 organizations. And we are really trying to go ahead and also bridge the divide with what I said, you know, organizations are now facing. We've put out a sign up volunteer form that we're still in the process of trying to go ahead and scale up to help folks be able to volunteer with organizations that are doing this kind of work and organizations that have been devastated by losing so much funding. Um,
Right.
so, these are just some of the things that we are currently looking at. And I know, like I said, it's 25 localities, that it's a long list. What I will also say is that, unfortunately, in addition to what's called these 287G agreements, now under the Trump administration, what is also an intergovernmental service agreement, which historically has been public information when there's somewhat of a contract between that locality and ICE, is no longer publicly available. So
Oh,
there are some institutions that are still trying to go ahead and find out what localities have signed these agreements. I know it was a local group of volunteers that in Chesapeake submitted a FOIA to find out that the Chesapeake sheriff had indeed signed an IGSA agreement.
mhm.
And so it might be more than those 25 localities.
It's
It
just
might
what's
be more.
available. Right.
So, having some of these resources available, I think, is the first step in kind of understanding what's going on and how to prepare yourself.
Right. So we see that Chesterfield is sort of a really epicenter of activity. And it's funny, we have just happened to have the Chesterfield candidates here running for office, and maybe we'll hear more about what's happening in their local town. And this is concerning because now people aren't showing up for court cases and so forth because they're just so afraid of this technique of going there, then dropping charges and arresting people. Where are they bringing people? Where are they housing? What is your understanding? I'm trying to figure that out. Like when we talk about Virginia, I heard that they're opening up 4 more prisons that were actually closed down, and maybe Sam would know something about that too, the state of those prisons anyways. But when these people are being arrested, where are they detained, and then where are they kind of sent? Do you know?
So, unfortunately, I'm not an attorney. What I
Mhm.
will tell you is, first and foremost, this is something that has been happening across the country.
Right,
Virginia is just one in the pick of the litter. Chesterfield is also one that we've also seen and heard that other courthouses are experiencing what is happening in Chesterfield as well. I will definitely want to give out a big shout out to the president of the local Chesterfield NAACP chapter there, Nicole Martin. She is the one who really acted, organized, and started really becoming vigilant to what was happening in the Chesterfield courthouses. And to be honest, that is how we find out what is happening. We did
on the
work with
ground, right.
new attorneys to go ahead and find out, but often we're seeing something that has also played out publicly, which sometimes there are accusations made, but no charges made. Some intimidation factors to go ahead and have those immigrants sign away their rights and
Right.
expedite the deportation process. So that is really what we're seeing. What I will say, even extremely conservative institutions like the Cato Institute are stating that we have up to about 65% or so of those individuals arrested have never had a criminal record.
Right. Well, right. And that's, of course, they're throwing around, that's the big word, is everything's a criminal, and this is how they're trying to dehumanize and make this okay. Like, it doesn't matter. To me, it's like due process is due process. I mean, you have to have your rights respected regardless of that. But I'll be interested. I'd like to follow up maybe more in the after chat to find out. I have asked, Senator Warner and Bobby Scott, when he was here, have they visited these areas? Have they got the numbers where I really want to make sure that we can follow these people, figure out where they're being, held and all that, and make sure conditions, at least they're not, that we can do what we can to be helpful to people when they're being, terrorized this way. And in when you hear this alligator, Alcatraz kind of areas, this is so disgusting how they're treating these people in general. So, and I do see that fresh polling data does show that Americans are rejecting this mass deportation agenda. There is some news in this. The more people see it, the more people are kind of rejecting it. And when they see the overreach, and hopefully the more that they hear and see, there'll be some pushback, and maybe that will be one step in being helpful, right? The more you see it, the more that people witness it, the more people are just kind of want to make sure that they're just not happy about this at all. Americans don't like it. So
And I will tell you that, a couple of things. First and foremost, nationally, we know that ICE currently has 15,000 more people incarcerated than they actually have funding to feed.
right,
We know that the conditions are already terrible. We
right.
have been in talks with both Senator Kaine and Senator Warner's office. They have stepped up to the plate and said they are willing to do more oversight visits.
Oh,
We
good.
want to leave it at that because we also want to make sure that those oversight visits are a surprise and that
Yeah,
we expect them
exactly.
coming. But we also want to go ahead and encourage any other House members to do the same thing. Over the weekend, we actually had an incident in the Norfolk pier where, we had a cruise line who actually has been having several of their visa staff intimidated by CBP, making really horrific allegations with absolutely no proof, and then just intimidating them into signing away their rights and deporting them when less than a 48-hour period to the Philippines.
Yeah,
So this is something that we're seeing across the board, and it's incredibly important for members in that particular is Congressman Scott's district. So
yes,
stepping up for that oversight is absolutely
absolutely.
critical in these times. And I will also say, not just for the members of Congress. Right now, really the ones who are providing and pushing oversight for these sheriffs who have signed these agreements are the localities. Call your sheriff, find out what they're doing. Are they supporting with ICE? Are they working with ICE? Asking, your board of supervisors or whoever has some sort of jurisdiction to be able to go ahead and do that. And I will also say some sheriffs are up for reelection this year.
Yeah,
And, ultimately, we want to go ahead and see that these are critical issues. Hopewell City, they are the latest locality to sign an ICE agreement.
mm,
So Hopewell City now has a full 287G agreement with the Trump administration. And so this is incredibly important. Those sheriffs need to hear from their constituents on their
right.
actions.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And I know that I don't know if you could stick around for the after chat. I hope so. I think people will have questions for you. Thank you, Monica Sarmento. She's the Executive Director of Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights. Such an important conversation and ongoing. And thank you for all your work around this, Monica. Great to see you again. You were at the summit. Great. Now I really get to talk to you. I didn't get to say hi to you there, but thank you so much for today. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, so I'm excited. I'm excited to bring on our next guest, and it's going to be today's has been already really great and informative. We're keeping on learning. To get up and talk to Sam Rasoul, House Delegate 38, because I bet you already has some stuff to say after everything you've heard. Let's just start with saying hi. Great to see you in the room.
Hey folks, good to see you, Big Mike, Catherine White, and Fanal. Always great to see you as well.
Yeah, it's always great to get in the room together. And when we thought about this particular topic, Fennell and I and the whole room has been talking about like who we are as Democrats, this sort of existential kind of crisis that sometimes we seem to be as Democrats always trying to figure out, about our brand. What does it say on the inside of our shirt label as I put in my Substack? What does yours say, And in this moment, when we see such just crazy stuff going on in this country, more than ever, I think it is time to do some truth, love, and grit with Sam Rasoul. So let's just start there. When you think about this and what you see that's going on in our country and in Virginia and all this, and when you think about where we are, we can go all the way back to the readjusters, and just think about, have we ever changed? We're always changing, so what are some of your thoughts on this?
After the first Trump election in 2016, I got a letter from a very strong Democrat, and he was trying to convince me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. I remember reading, I'm like, how could this guy say this as somebody who's like goes to the conventions? And he was so disappointed in the party. And what I like to remind folks is we don't really have two parties, or especially with the Democratic Party, not to think of it as a party. it's a coalition of a bunch of parties. Like we have two big coalitions, right? And so you've got a coalition and it's inside of the Democratic Party, and there's certain ideals, and many times you're having a conversation, a debate with other parts in the coalition. And if you think about it that way, then you're having a more constructive conversation. So truth, love, and grit is just our approach to it all.
Oh, unmute for now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love that, Sam. We tend to think about it as big tent. We go big tent, big tent. But I think people don't get that as much as they get the coalition, because when you have a coalition, to your point, you have to agree. You have to, sometimes in the coalition you win and sometimes you lose. But if you lose the whole thing, then nobody gets any value out of it. So I'm going to stick with that because I think that that's a good way to think about it as I'm having conversations.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And so we started with, several years ago, we were thinking about what's going to be our slogan for our next campaign, and we're trying to do all the different words. And I just came down to what I teach my kids. My wife and I say, always tell the truth, always be kind, never give up, truth, love, and grit. And that's really the principles that we live by as a family. And so we just said, that's how we're going to be talking about politics and moving forward. And with that, I've got a few thoughts to share about how we can be moving forward together.
Let's go ahead. Do you want to share, start that sharing, and then we'll follow up with some combo?
Yeah, sure. Well, of course, thank you so much for the invitation to be with you all. So much energy, time and time again, no matter what's going on. We can count on Network Nova. We can count on this show to always have some great voices, some good information. Look, so starting out with the truth. The reality is it's like Groundhog's Day. We are 8 years later, right back in the thick of things. And it's very difficult. But what I try to remind everyone is we're battling on two fronts. Remember, we were talking about the coalition earlier. The first front is battling against these terrible, sometimes evil policies that are coming out of this administration. We've got to stand up strong, certainly. As a Palestinian American, as a Muslim American myself, I feel the vulnerability, but I know that we've got broad coalitions, people who are standing hand in hand against the injustice. And second is to have the courage to be able to look inside of our coalition and say, where do we need to improve? How can we change as we move forward? So a couple more truths that we realized for the first time in my lifetime. This past election, 2024, the Democratic Party, we became the party of the rich. As you can see from this graph, a slight majority of the people making over $100,000 voted for Democrats this time, and a slight majority of people making under $100,000 voted for Republicans. Those working class ideals, that has, I think, made us lose touch with too many people. Bottom line is that people are trying to ask a simple question about how they can envision a future better for themselves and for their family as we move forward. So let's not forget that truth, that we've got to connect socioeconomically and otherwise. The modern day Democratic Party, built on the New Deal, built on this premise, is not resonating in our messaging and sometimes in our policies. And then second, we've got to just come to terms with, we just can't be the anti-Trump party. It's not going to work long term. Pushing back and fighting against those policies is one thing, and I'm there as chair of Education Committee. You heard Schuyler talk about some of these policies. We're there, but the way we connect, the way we talk with folks, it has got to be more than just anti-Trump. We've got to be able to connect on a real level with folks. Second, when we're talking about love, here's a quote: "Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice." This is actually part of a quote from Martin Luther King's sermon, where he was talking about, where do we go from here? I think a lot of folks are asking this question: where do we go from here? The whole premise of that sermon was that love and justice are inseparable. And if we are building our resistance, building our message, building our work based on simply a despise for the other side and for individuals. In his case, he believes that that's not going to work, and certainly that's how I believe. I believe that we've got to be able to connect on a much deeper level. The reality is that, you know, many of you have seen these emails, right? Like, you've got to donate right now, or you're going to lose your Democratic membership. Please chip in these $3 right now. I mean, people believe we're only contacting them for votes and money. And we've got to, I think, connect with them with some authentic love as we move forward, and let them feel it. And that doesn't need to be a point of weakness. In fact, we can do that from a source of strength, as MLK would argue. What was interesting in this primary that happened about a month ago in New York City, which I thought was fascinating, the Mamdani campaign was able to do something that I've never seen before: invert the voting scale. Here we had the largest number, if you look at this, largest number of raw voters were young people.
Right.
And I haven't seen that before. So I believe that it's in part due to this message of connecting on affordability, connecting on a future, and of course, you know, being able to use mediums that really can connect with folks at a deeper level. And so let's be thinking about how we can challenge ourselves to connect with our own base, so that way we've got, when people are saying, hey, the young people don't care, they're apathetic, they're not there. No, I think that maybe we just aren't getting it sometimes, but some people are, and let's learn from some of those lessons. And then grit. So some of you, I think there's a few of you out of Central Virginia. There's in Charlottesville, there's a coffee shop called Grit Coffee, if you've ever been there. So I want you to remember, every time that you're drinking your coffee, you're thinking about those coffee grinds, remember that grit that needs to happen. The first thing around that is more than just mobilizing, we need to organize. And I think in this moment, that's really important. We have done a phenomenal job of mobilizing folks. There's protests and rallies every single week, if not daily, that we can attend. There is a sharp distinction between mobilizing and then organizing, because you got to take that energy and actually have it do something. I see people putting things in the chat about, we're going to write postcards, we're going to knock doors, we're going to give this legislator a hard time. And so making that distinction and transitioning that energy, that mobilizing energy, because going to the protest is not in and of itself the work that needs to be done. It is a way to bring people together. It's the first step in organizing. And so as we move forward, let's keep that in mind. What I did want to share with you is, because people are often coming to me, to my office, to others, and ask, what should we do? What do we need to do? Well, look, let's break it down into 3 buckets. Figure out your lane. You might have multiple ones, but figure out your lane and focus there. 1 is direct advocacy. I want to give my congressman a hard time. 2 is local support. There are organizations, whether it be organizations that are supporting immigrants or other individuals who are in need. And then 3 is straight elections.
Right.
And what we've done here is tier this thing out into low impact, high impact, and medium impact. And certainly we can share all of this, but the reality is just thinking through the impact of the actions that we take, so that way we can have the most impact in moving forward, for sure. And then I'll just close on this quote, Catherine, before I turn it back over to you. I love this James Baldwin quote. It says, I've never been in despair about the world. Enraged, yes, but I've never been in despair, because when you're in despair, you're losing hope. And I can't afford despair, because you can't tell the children there is no hope.
No. And I'm going to put that little piece of that slide. I just grabbed it and put it in the chat so people can see it. I don't know if it went in or not. I have to go look. I have to say, I was enjoying reading some of the responses, and I know we're going to talk in the after chat, so I'll keep it short because we want to put up the Chesterfield Power Pack. But people are cynical about this love. Love's not
Yeah.
enough, Sam. Love's not
Right.
enough. They want to fight. So I think it's a little bit more of saying that it has to come from that place, right? The justice and the power of the love. It's not just like, ooh, lovey, lovey, dovey, you know.
You know, there were these amazing debates between, and not debates, discussions, let's say, between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. And Malcolm X would talk about this action that needed to be taken, and then you had this nonviolent resistance that was championed by Martin Luther King Jr. In his latter years, Malcolm X began to adopt some of those strategies. And I know the feeling, especially because it's so raw, we're under attack on a daily basis. The reality is that if you want to be right, then that's fine. You can be right with that assertion. But we are in the business of winning hearts and minds. I mean, these are the core organizers here, like on this call. And we're in the business of winning hearts and minds. We're not in the business of just being right. And so there are some folks, if we're going to get into their minds, if we're going to get into their living rooms and have a good discussion, we're going to need to show them that there's something deeper that is inside of us and why we care about their future.
Oop, we're ending on that care. And that's what we said at the Women's Summit. With Democrats, we care. And that's important. And I'm so glad you came and were with us today. It really makes me actually feel better just even seeing you and saying hi, but hearing from you, very wise. That truth, love, and grit. Great to have you in the room. Hopefully you can stick around. And it's going to be really exciting to see the Chesterfield Power Pack up next. So thank you, Sam Rasoul. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we're
So
just going to get to it, girl.
yeah, I know. I got to get to it. So it's so exciting to bring up the Power Pack. I am delighted. I'm going to cut my presentation a little bit short today, but here's what I will say.
I'm sorry, I just put Deborah right in.
It's okay. You can just keep putting them in because I said 12:56. So keep putting them in. So here's what I would say is typically I would take you to the Virginia grassroots and just show you a couple of things because we want to make sure that everybody understands how to do that. So the next time we have the Power Packs on, I will be sure to go back and share with you guys what I was going to share today. But what I will say to you all is that one of the wonderful things that we do is when we have our conversations here, we're clipping them and putting them in your Power Pack so that when folks go to see you, they will be able to hear you and some of the things that you had to say today. And so I'm going to assume that Jonas isn't here because I don't see him on the screen.
I don't see him yet, but I would say also, you know,
Jonas
have
is
some time
here,
today. Yeah. Oh, is he? Okay.
but it's not. I'm not Jonas.
But there he is. There he is. Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. So we do have Jonas. So fantastic. So guys, here's what I want you to know. When I talk about the Power Packs, which is this awesome opportunity for you all to work together, do you all know each other? I ask that question every week. Perfect, because that's how it works better. So the idea is that you have Deborah Gardner, who is in her district, and it is like so blue that it's almost but she's hardworking. I mean, she works so hard for such a blue district. And then we have Leslie, who is in this district that is pretty awesome. Kamala Harris won your district. So that's pretty amazing. So that's she 49.4, 49.3, 48.7. And Jonah, your district is the one that's the more red. So we're going to have to do some real fighting there. So Harris was 45 and Trump was 53. And Deborah Gardner, back to your district that's so blue, 63 was Harris and 36 was Trump. So they just really hate Trump there. So to Sam's truth, love, and grit, they just really hated Trump. So I want us to get started. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to just take a few minutes, and I'm going to start with you, Leslie, and you're going to just, a little teeny bit about you, but what people are most interested in. You ran for Congress, now you're running for the delegates. What is your path to victory? So if you can do that for us, we would just love to hear that.
All right, that sounds good. It's good seeing you again. So yes, I'm Leslie Mehta, running for the House of Delegates in District 73 in Chesterfield. And just as a reminder, I'm a lawyer, the former legal director of the ACLU of Virginia. I know ACLU came up several times. And one of the things is, I ran for Congress last year. And although I didn't win, I did get the most votes of any Dem ever in that seat. So I'm very excited about that. But there's more work to be done. And that was an uphill battle. as you mentioned, Fernal, this is really doable. It was won by Harris last year around, and we're excited about the trajectory. Mark Early is a particularly weak candidate. I've outraised him every reporting cycle that we've had. I'm knocking the doors and communicating with people, and we're ready to go and fight for this seat and flip it in November.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to come back. Hopefully, I know you guys are so busy, but if you could stay for a bit of the after chat, that would be awesome. Jonas, it's so nice to meet you. You've got the hardest row to hoe here. So talk us a little bit, tell us a little bit about you, your path to victory.
Yeah, so kind of saying what Sam, Delegate Rasoul had mentioned, this is about turning out young people. It's about turning out working class families. Um, we need to be promoting as a party, policies that young people really care about. That is affordable housing, affordability from the grocery side of things, universal health care, child care. I'm expecting to grow a family here soon. So, I am 27 years old. I'm a Gen Z candidate, and what I see out there is, regardless of age, but specifically young people feel like they've been left behind by both parties, and the parties aren't speaking to them right now. And I want to change that. I want to do something different. I want to be knocking on doors and talking with them about real issues and how we're going to make a difference in their daily lives. And I think that's the path to success.
That's awesome. Sort of reminds me of this wonderful senator in Texas, State Senator James Tallarico. I don't know if you guys have read him or watched him. He is absolutely phenomenal. If you want to think about one of the things that he did, he walked the entirety of his district. And if you could think about getting attention to young people or to folks that you have to get to, you just have to sort of think, how is this different? How is what I'm doing different? Because one of the things I say is in a race where Kamala Harris might have won, those might have been people who couldn't stomach Trump, but they like their local person. So you have to figure out what is a compelling thing that's going to continue that same path where they're going to say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that at all. Deborah Gardner, what are you going to do?
Thank you.
Your path to victory. Oh, it's already a path. Just kidding. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so pleased to be a part of this Power Pack. And I guess people would say, why, if my district is so blue, as you say, should they be concerned with the 76th district? That's because we have got to increase the majority in the House of Delegates. And for those of us who are in those districts, no district is safe. We may say that, but the 76 may be blue, but the people don't vote. And that's why it's so important that we support people in districts like mine, because what we can do is help our neighbors like Leslie and Jonas and help the top of the ticket by juicing up those numbers and knocking those doors and getting those people in those blue districts who say, why should I vote because a Democrat is going to win? We need them to come out and vote. We need them to increase the majority. We need them to have a landslide at the top of the ticket, and for some of those places where they have down ballot tickets. So that's why it's so important to get out here and support, and for me in a blue district to get out here and knock those doors. I mean, you guys are familiar with me. I may be in a safe district, but I've had like a really, really tough district before, and I run this one just like I ran those. You have to get out and meet the people where they are.
I will say, Deborah Gardner, when I try to get a hold of you, I never can because you're always so busy. And I think that is right. You always run like you're losing. And I will say, from knowing you, that's exactly what you do. So guys, we don't have hardly any time left, but I do just want to give you 30 seconds to say, this is fantasy football, but it's fantasy power packs. So you're giving your 30-second plug to folks to say, listen, this is why you should support me, and this is why you should support this Power Pack. Leslie, go.
All right. So this is why you need to support. We, as Deborah mentioned, Delegate Gardner mentioned, we really need to be able to expand our Democratic majority in the House of Delegates. And we have the constitutional amendments up again next year. It's important to be able to vote those positively this time around and get them on the ballot. We have to make sure that in all of these districts, we not only support these races, but bring out the people so they can support Abigail at the top of the ticket, and our Lieutenant Governor, next Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, and Jay Jones for AG. So bringing people out is important for our races, but it's important for the collective as well.
Awesome. Jonas, you've got the hardest race. And so give us that plug. People are going to say, oh, why am I even bothering with this race? Tell them why they should. He's getting off mute. He's coming. All right, I'm gonna go to Deborah Gardner.
There we go. Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute myself. Yeah, so I think that, you know, my district might be a tough one, but it's on the front lines. And if we want to push back against MAGA, the best way to do that is to lead from the front and to take it right to a strong position. You know, they say that the best, you know, defense is a good offense. And so right here, the 74th, which is South Chesterfield and Colonial Heights, that's the front line. That's where, you know, if you're taking the fight to MAGA, that's where you should be fighting. You know, this race that I'm running is based upon real change, and I see us, you know, really taking far more than just what the establishment Democrat, you know, caucus might think is possible when it comes to seats. And I would like to see a supermajority so we can get more done for you know, the residents of this great Commonwealth. Yeah, support me if you're down to fight on the front lines.
All right. And Deborah Gardner.
And what I would say, you said I'm one of the hardest working people. I am. I will continue to do that. I will fight for reproductive freedom. I will fight for affordable, accessible health care, for the environment, for affordable wages for people. And we have got to show the MAGA Republicans that we're not just going to win. We're going to win with a mandate. And so I'm going to be out here working with the top of the ticket to get them elected and try to expand our majority so we can get something done. We can work hard now, but it goes nowhere when we have a governor who vetoes everything. So we have got to get this done.
Good. One other question for you, Deborah Gardner. Senator Ghazala Hashmi is on this ticket that you're going to be working for, but I think that my data shows that you have like 40% of her, or is it more, of her district is in your district. Is that right?
Actually, 80% of the 15th is in Chesterfield. It overlaps me 36%. And yes, if she wins this election, I will be running for that Senate seat as well, because I think we need to keep it in the hands of Chesterfield County and keep it in the hands of a woman who will work hard and has proven herself.
Well, there you go.
I love that. I'm all down. Life popped in right for that business. I agree. I'm so excited. And I want to point out, I know that yesterday we talked about when the Virginia Grassroots Coalition and this, and maybe Jonas, I know he just took his video off, but Jonas, you're out there in a new PAC. And what was that PAC called? It was the, oh geez, the people that are all.
Well, they haven't really got it all worked out yet, but they're working on it.
What's the name of it? I was just blanking.
It's Jonas. What is the name of the group that you guys are thinking about?
We're not ready to show that yet.
They're not there, so it's a top secret right now. So
it's top secret. Okay, well, I'm just going to say, okay, then top secret, because I'm all about breaking down secrets. But I would say this, Jonas and different races out there, a little bit of money goes a long way. So we want to make sure that we have the power packs on today. Make sure you, if you can right now, donate to these wonderful candidates in the room. And we know, like Sam Rasoul said, it's at we get that money thing all the time. Yes, it is very annoying, but in some of these cases, a little bit of money goes a long way, and also our activism. So I want to thank the Chesterfield Power Pack for being on there today. And I didn't want to spill the tea on the secret stuff, but you know, that's what the Friday Power Lunch is all about. So thank you.
We have a couple
Stay
secrets every now and
tuned.
again.
Stay tuned.
We're going to stay tuned.
All right. Well, great. So hopefully this group can stay on the after chat with us. We'll be, I love that hands up are already going there. Thank you, Leslie. We'll see you soon on the other side. What a great other show. Every time there's a Friday, I think to myself, oh, how are we going to get to the other side of this? So much to talk about. And we always make it.
We always make it. And we might have made it a little slower today, but we made it.
Yeah, well, we added in the senator, and I think that's okay. You know, we're usually here till 2:00. Let's just say to folks that when we stick around the after chat, sometimes we talk so much it goes till 2. I want to thank our guests, everybody, for being on today. I mean, again, I can't say enough of the word thank you when it comes to people showing up for us. Monica Sarmento, thank you so much for everything you do. She's the executive director of Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights. Our friend Sam Rasoul, everybody's friend, Delegate 38. He's also on the ballot, and will be, he's in a power pack that will be on the show soon. That's the Roanoke Power Pack, right?
Yep, that's right.
That's right. Look at it. Yep, that's right. And also for the last minute, we wanted to bring in some Virginia special report. And that was awesome that we were able to do that today. That was pretty special with Schuyler VanValkenburg. So great to hear. I don't know if anybody heard if the lawsuit if they've got out of court yet, but that'll be exciting to sort of figure out what they're doing there. And for our patrons in the room, thank you so much for always putting some money in our pocket. You can support us. People in this room could join our patron community for $5, $10, $25 a month. You support us and our work, which is really super important to us. Thank you so much for all of that. And next week, we're really excited. August 1st, we're going to be doing stuff on a different kind of coalition, which is our seniors. We, the seniors, will be on. We'll be talking more about how different segments of our population are coming together to really fight for what's right, and also against what this administration is doing. So with that, I would love to say, let's get ready to go to the other side. And we already have 3 hands up, which I love. All right, let's roll. Dennis, thank you.